Hello and welcome to the Awakening with Kelvin Phiri podcast, proudly brought to you through our Bridges to Prosperity series. This is the place where we take African stories, real events, real conversations, and connect them to the big picture of where our continent is heading. Today's episode is particularly important because it touches on something that has held Africa back for decades and yet carries the key to our future: inter-African trade. Disclaimer before we go any further. I want to make it very clear that this episode is for education, analysis, and public reflection. It is not an endorsement of any government, political party, or individual. The views expressed here are based on publicly available information, including the News Diggers article, and they are intended to help us understand how policy decisions affect development, trade, and the future of our continent. Listeners are encouraged to research further, form their own opinions, and engage in respectful dialogue. This episode does not represent professional, financial, or political advice. It is simply a contribution to public understanding as we explore how Africa can build prosperity through cooperation. The meeting behind the headlines. Let us begin with the article published by News Diggers on November 15th, 2025. The headline reads, "Zambia-Zimbabwe relationship excellent, says HH as he calls for removal of tariffs." In this meeting, President Hakainde Hichilema emphasized the need to remove duties and tariffs that make it difficult for Zambia and Zimbabwe to trade freely. He said Africa has one of the lowest intracontinental trade rates compared to Europe, Asia, and the Americas, and that as neighbors, Zambia and Zimbabwe should lead by example. President Mnangagwa reinforced the same message. Zimbabwe and Zambia, he said, must work together to unlock prosperity for both sides. This is not a small statement. It is a policy direction. It is a commitment. And it is a signal that the leadership of both countries understands something that Africa is slowly waking up to, that no African country will prosper in isolation. We are going to take a deep dive into the recent Bilateral National Commission meeting between Zambia and Zimbabwe, a meeting that might look ordinary on the surface, but when you unpack it, you begin to see how it fits into the larger vision of regional integration, economic cooperation, and Africa's long-awaiting awakening. The deeper importance for Africa. Let us move from the article to the African context. For many years, African nations have traded more with Europe, China, India, and America than they trade with each other. Africa produces raw materials. Africa exports them, and Africa imports the finished product. This has weakened our economies, cost us jobs, and made us dependent on foreign markets. The African Continental Free Trade Area, the AfCFTA, was created to address exactly this problem. Its goal is simple: create the largest free trade area in the world by allowing Africans to trade freely across borders. But here is the truth: AfCFTA will never succeed on paper alone. It will only succeed if countries take individual action, if borders are modernized, if tariffs are reduced, if procedures are simplified, if political will is demonstrated. That is why this Zambia-Zimbabwe meeting is important. It is a practical step. It is not a conference statement. It is not a speech. It is a signed commitment to remove barriers. If two neighbors cannot trade freely, then Africa's dream of open borders and continental integration remains just that, a dream. This meeting is one of the bricks needed to build that bridge. what this means for the two countries. Let us bring this home in practical terms. Number one, lower cost of doing business. If tariffs fall and border processes become faster, the cost of moving goods will reduce. This benefits farmers carrying maize, fruits, vegetables. It benefits transporters, it benefits manufacturers, and ultimately it benefits the ordinary citizen who buys those goods. Number two, more investment. Businesses invest where the environment is predictable. When two countries harmonize their policies, reduce barriers, and create smoother corridors, they become attractive to investors. Processing plants can set up along the border. Logistics companies can expand. Exporters can scale. Number three, agriculture and mining growth. Zambia supplies maize, sugar, soybeans, beef, copper-related products, and manufactured goods into Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, in turn, exports goods that Zambia needs. Removing barriers strengthens these value chains. Number four, better border efficiency. The article mentions discussions around improving border efficiency, including the possibility of 24-hour border operations. Anyone who has ever crossed Chirundo understands how important this is. Number five, economic stability and security. When countries cooperate, there is more stability, and stability attracts tourism, investment, and long-term development. Is this a sign we are moving in the right direction? Africa is at a turning point. We are witnessing more regional partnerships, more joint meetings, more shared initiatives. The Zambia-Zimbabwe partnership aligns with similar developments across the continent. Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania easing trade procedures, South Africa and Botswana improving transport corridors, Rwanda and DRC boosting cross-border cooperation, Morocco working with West African nations to strengthen agricultural trade. The question is not whether these steps are enough. The question is whether they move Africa in the right direction. The answer is yes, but progress requires consistency, it requires implementation, and it requires mindset change. We cannot say we want regional trade while we maintain high tariffs, slow borders, and complicated rules. This Zambia-Zimbabwe dialogue shows a willingness to shift. It shows leadership recognizing that Africa's future prosperity must be built through cooperation, not competition. The positives we must highlight. There are several positive signs from this development. First, commitment at presidential level. When heads of state give direction, it filters down to ministries, departments, and agencies. Second, open conversation about sanctions. President Hichilema's statement that sanctions on Zimbabwe must be lifted is significant. It shows regional solidarity and recognition that isolation does not build prosperity. Third, signed agreements across many sectors. The two countries signed memoranda of understanding in agriculture, transport, security, youth development, border management, and the modernization of state agencies like ZRA and ZIMRA. Fourth, strengthening of regional peace. The more countries trade together, the less likely they are to fall into unnecessary conflict. Prosperity brings stability. Fifth, diaspora opportunities. For our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, easier trade means easier business. It means simpler logistics for sending goods, investing, or creating cross-border enterprises. The road ahead. So where do we go from here? Zambia and Zimbabwe need to ensure that the commitments made in this meeting are implemented. Customs procedures must be simplified, transport corridors must be upgraded, farmers and manufacturers must be supported, and border technology must modernize. If this happens, we will see more jobs at the borders, more manufacturing plants, lower prices of essential goods, stronger regional supply chains, more resilient economies. But most importantly, we will see Africa rising on its own terms. final closing and call to action. As we conclude, we must remember that Africa's future is built through deliberate choices. Choices to open up, choices to cooperate, choices to trust each other, choices to build bridges and not walls. The Zambia and Zimbabwe agreement is more than a headline. It is a statement of intent. It is a sign that Africa is slowly but surely waking up to her own potential. If we stay the course, if we keep working together, if we continue building these corridors of cooperation, then truly prosperity will not be a dream. It will be our lived reality. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Bridges to Prosperity series. If you found value in this conversation and you believe more Africans should hear discussions like this, please take a moment to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. That way you won't miss any of our future deep dives into Africa's journey towards 2050. Your engagement helps this message reach more people, spark more conversations, and build a bigger community of Africans who are committed to development, unity, and progress. Until next time, this is Kelvin Phiri reminding you that we rise higher when we rise together. Stay blessed, stay focused, and keep building bridges to prosperity.